Different food, better food, I hope. Different learning too. And actually, this week is Parshat Lech lecha, and he has a lot of strange things, honestly. So one of the strange things that we have, and then let's just give a little bit of a background. In this week's from last week's Parsha, coming into this week's Parsha, God tests Abraham 10 times. By testing means God hides his face. He puts him in a situation that seems Abraham is in danger, or it's something that God is not there to help him. So the question is, will Abraham overcome the test, or is he going to complain against God? Now, what were his tests really? We're going to learn about number 4 or something. But the first test that he had, there's an argument, by the way, what the 10 tests are. We knew that he was tested 10 times. That's what the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of the Fathers, but it doesn't say clearly what the 10 tests are. So there's one of the books, Pirkei, that Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus was one of the guys, one of the people of the Mishnah. He wrote it, and he says that the first test was, I'm sure you guys have heard when Moses was born, the Egyptians saw that the savior of the Jews is born. So that's why they threw all the boys to kill them. So similar to that happened when Abraham was born. When he was born, so then the astrologer saw that somebody is born in the family of Terach, Abraham's father, that he is going to bring everybody to believe in God. And it's going to go against the idolatry that was very, common in those days, who the king was Nimrod. So they call Terach, and you know what, Terach? Give us your son that was just born. We're going to kill him, but we give you a lot of money. He's danger to our idolatry. He's going to bring, God's belief in the world. So Terach didn't want to do that. It's his child. He had a mate that actually she gave birth at the same time as his own wife. So he switched the kids. And that kid was killed, unfortunately. So then he was still afraid that they're going to come and see that Abraham is alive. So he took his son into a cave. Don't ask me how he grew up there. It was through miracles. And according to the Pirkei that Rabbi Eliezer, actually, the angel Michael came and he taught him about God. He was there for 13 years, but he never complained. Why did God put him in such a situation? So the first 13 years of his life was very lonely. He didn't have a normal family at all. Don't ask me how he learned how to speak. Probably the angels taught it to him. So at the age of 13, somehow he comes home. That was his first test. That even though he had a miserable life, the first 13 years, no complaints. I'm sure you know about the second test. His father used to sell idols, right? You learned it when you went to Chabad, probably, or your parents told you that one day his father went to a trip, and he tells Abraham, stay in the store and sell the idols. The bigger the idol, the more expensive the idol. So then it says that an old man came and he wanted to buy an idol. So Abraham didn't believe in these things. So it tells the guy, how old are you? He says, well, it's I'm 50 years old, 60 years old. So it says, it's a shame. How can you worship something that my father made a few weeks ago and you're even older than him? He said, does it make sense? So the guy got embarrassed, didn't buy the idol. Later on, a woman comes with food and he says, please bring this food as a sacrifice for the idols. So Abraham uses this as opportunity, and he takes an axe and he breaks all the idols, and he leaves the big one, and he puts the axe in the hands of the big idol. The father comes up and he says, what's going on here? He says, well, a lady brought food and wanted to give the idols as a sacrifice, and then they got into a big fight. They were arguing, and the biggest one killed them all. So the father says, nonsense, these idols can't move. So Abraham says, exactly, so why do you worship them? So when he did that, the father got really angry, you know what I'm saying? And what he did, he says, I'm going to take you to King Nimrod. So King Nimrod, he's the one that wanted to kill Abraham, years before, but the father saved them. So it says, you know what? If you really think your God is very strong, I believe in the fire. I'm going to throw him into the fire. Let's see if your God is stronger or mine. So they threw Abraham into a fire, but again, an angel came and he saved him. He wasn't burnt. That was his second test. That he actually was ready to give up his life for a belief in God. He didn't tell Nimrod, okay, don't throw him into the fire. I'm going to start worshiping fire. That was the second test. Third test was when the God tells him, leave your homeland, go to the land that I'm going to show you. I mean, you ask your parents. Your parents came from Iran, right? Ask them how they felt when they came out to an unknown country. It's really scary. It's not a good feeling. You guys are born here, so this is your homeland. After Israel, obviously. Our first homeland is Israel. But again, you're raised here, so you feel comfortable in the city, in the country that you live. But the ones that go to a place that have no idea what it is, very, very scary. So Abraham had to go with his wife, and he passed the test, no complaints. The problem was, after a couple months that he gets into Israel, God sends a big famine. And the famine was only in land of Israel, nowhere else. So Abraham had to go down to Egypt. And when it comes to Egypt, people of Egypt were not used to beautiful women. I don't know why they all were mostly ugly. I don't know, the wives were too beautiful. Don't ask me why, but old Egypt was like that. So Abraham says, I'm really worried. I'm going to go down to Egypt because food is there. They're going to see you're such a beautiful woman. If they're going to find out that you're my wife, they're going to kill me to marry you. So I'm begging you, please tell them that you're my sister. And you're not married, you're looking for a shidduch to get married. That's the whole lie story that they make. And then what really is questionable, let's read the pasuk inside. So this is on verse 13 in this week's parsha. Avram tells his wife Sarah, Imri na, please say or say now, achoti at, that you're my sister. No, you don't have a husband, you're looking for a shidduch. You're looking to get married. Why should you say that? Leman yitav li ba'avurech. So it's going to be good for me. What does that mean? It's going to be good for me. Rashi says I will get a lot of gifts. As by the Persians, when you want to go khastagari, you all know that language. I'm sure you know what khastagari is. When a boy goes and asks for you to get married, so you have to bring diamonds and a bunch of stuff. So it says they're going to give me a bunch of gifts. And I'm going to live because of you. This is what he tells his wife. So all the commentators have a serious problem with this. How could Avram Avinu bring his wife in a situation of committing adultery? How could he do that? Okay, whatever it is, maybe leave her in Israel, go to Egypt, buy some food, and then come back to Israel again. You're going to go with your wife into the land of Egypt, and you're going to make her do something, come into a situation of adultery. She was a married woman. Why would Avram do that? Question is even bigger. He doesn't say that, okay, do it so I should live. He says they should give me gifts. What, you want to use your wife as a tool to get gifts? Really, it's not Avraham Avinu's character trait. And again, the Torah says, he said, please tell me you're my sister. So good should be done to me. As Rashi says, I'm going to get a lot of gifts and I'm going to live because of you. This is one of the strong questions that I have against Abraham. How could he do such thing to his wife? So what happens is, actually, let's go through the background. That wasn't the first plan of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, the Torah says when they came to Egypt, only Abraham went to Egypt. And then it says afterwards, the guys found Sarah. How come Sarah is not mentioned? So the Medrash says, Abraham put Sarah into a chest and actually was faking and saying, I only have goods that I'm bringing to Egypt. He wasn't going with his wife openly. Then they said you have to pay taxes. You come into our country, you have to pay taxes. Taxes existed even since those days. There were customs all the time. And Abraham says, whatever money you want, I'll give you. They said, no, I want to see what's in there. When they opened it up, behold, who's there? Sarah is there. So that wasn't the first plan to say, you're my sister. He actually hid him there. But then, when she came out, and they saw what a beautiful lady she is, what he said, I'm going to get gifts. He didn't mean, I'm going to get gifts and you're going to commit adultery. I'm sure this sounds like a Hollywood movie. You know what boys do to get a wife of their desire? Hollywood existed in Egypt too, but it was called something else. Egypt wood, not Hollywood. What do you want to call it? Bollywood, all the stupid things that they call it. Anyways, so what happens is, Avram was saying, I'm going to say you're my sister. So people want to find favor in our eyes. They're going to say, Abraham, you have a beautiful sister. Here is some gold. Can you please consider me to marry your sister? So Abraham's going to say, I don't know. Let me see. I'm going to ask my sister. Then another person comes. He's going to receive the gift and also play the same game. He didn't mean I'm going to get gifts. I'm going to give you as a wife to somebody else. He was acting very Jewish. Makes sense? Because our class is not balanced. There's only boys. What's going on? Or maybe very, like saying in yeshiva, it's very stark. It's very strong. It's like a yeshiva. We're going to steig. Hi. You see, we are learning about Abraham. telling Sarah, please tell the Egyptians that you're my sister. So I'm going to get gifts and I'm going to live. How could he bring his wife to a situation of committing adultery just to get gifts or even to live? So anyways, he was saying that if you're going to see my sister, they're going to give me gifts that I should find favor in my eyes. So I'm going to say, let me see, I'm going to ask my sister. Another guy will give me gifts. And he said, I'm going to play with them for a few months till the famine will go away. And the truth is, famine went away after 3 months. That's when Abraham left Egypt. The problem was, so, somebody says, I should get gifts. Not that I'm going to get the gifts to give you to somebody to commit adultery. They're going to come say, you have a beautiful sister. Give me your sister as a wife. So Abraham says, give me the gift. Let me ask my sister if she wants to marry you. Next day, somebody else comes with a gift. So he's going to play them around, You don't get it? Why? What's so hard? He wasn't planning to give his wife to anybody. Imagine, okay, I'm an Egyptian, right? And you have this beautiful sister. I say, Josh, please, I want to marry your sister. So I give you, let's say, $10,000. So you're going to say, no, I'm not going to give you my sister. So easy. Let me ask her. I have to convince her. So meanwhile you have 10,000. Next day, somebody else comes. And he says, Josh, I want to marry your sister, please. So yes, it would scam them. It's okay, but he gives him $10,000 or 5,000. Let me ask my sister. He would just play with them. And at the end, he would give him back the money. Not that he didn't want to, but he's going to play with them. So meanwhile, they're not going to kill Abraham because they don't know that Sarah is the wife. And they're going to wait a couple months. You don't get married the next day. What? Oh, so he was hoping that the famine will finish and he's going to say, no, my sister is not interested. Here's your money back. That's it. But the problem, so that was his idea. He says, I'm going to get gifts, not for the point. Guys, this is Mr. Menachem Koshania. I'll show you from Facebook. He makes all the fantastic jokes and also about Shalom Bayis.
I have glitter on my hand, so like
that's okay. That's Jewish litter.
Okay, there's a couple of them, huh?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, they have glitter on them. They just got painted recently, so. But these two are just the normal ones.
I'm going to ask them. Any of them doesn't put on tefillin, he's going to put on tefillin from now on. We'll give him one of them.
Okay, they got TMT hats from Floyd Mayweather.
Somebody that does not put on tefillin is going to take upon himself to put it on for a week.
The limited edition, the one with the Israel flag on it.
Yeah, some of them are really worth $180 retail. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I was Persian cheap, so I bought one for 72. I didn't buy the most expensive.
I wish I told you I would have given him, but
no, it's okay. It's stuck on me. It's nothing bad. Thank God I gave it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Good job, guys, for coming.
Guys, please follow him in Facebook.
I see him and it's famous.
He's very famous. Yeah, he got famous more after he got married.
Love you, Rabbi.
Take it easy. Anyways, so he would get like that. He was hoping to play around for 3-4 months, and then he would skip Egypt. The problem is that plan didn't work. You know why? The Torah says as soon as these custom guys opened it up, they saw she's so beautiful. They said, "Oh, we're not going to touch her," because the dignitaries that live in Pharaoh's palace, they're looking for such a wife. I'm saying we can't marry her. We're going to be in trouble. So they told to the dignitaries or people that live by Pharaoh's palace, they said, oh, no, we're not going to marry this woman. She's extremely beautiful. Only a king deserves her. So the whole plan of Abraham didn't work. Unfortunately, fortunately, and he ended up being in Pharaoh's house. But what happened is the Torah says that God sent a lot of plagues. Pharaoh married her, wanted to live with her, have relations. And that night, when he was planning to have relations, an angel of God came and plagued. So this explains that God forbid Abram didn't have the intention whatsoever to make his wife commit adultery. He was just playing with them. Is that clear, people? Now we want to go to a deeper explanation, people. And actually, this is very, very relevant. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you guys believe when you get married is the merit of your wife that brings you parnasa, or you think she's only a spender? You get the money yourself, but she just spends the money for you. I used to say a joke. IRS and MRS. MRS is Mrs. IRS is where you pay your money, taxes. Which one is better? I always say as a joke, IRS is better. You know why? Because sometimes they give you back refund, but your Mrs. never gives you back refund. She spends the money all the time. They say another joke. There was a guy that his wife's credit card was stolen. His wife had a credit card, but it was stolen. But the guy didn't cancel the credit card and didn't get a new one for his wife. That's thing, you crazy? Why don't you cancel the credit card? He says, because the thief spends less money than my wife. Rather the thief have it. Anyways, but the truth is, what we're going to learn from the story of Abraham is that you have to know in the future, first of all, you have to know the value of your moms, your dads and your mom. And God willing, when you get married, you should know the amount of money that you make really depends on the righteousness and the good heart of your wife. The Zohar says as follows. Why did Abraham, told Sarah, please tell me that you're my sister, so I'm going to get gifts for you. So the Zohar says Abraham saw that God's presence is on top of the head of Sarah, meaning wherever Sarah goes, he has God's protection. Avram didn't see that protection upon himself. He was worried that he's going to get attacked by the Egyptians. So what did he say? He says, Sarah, don't worry about it. I see that the Shekhinah, God's presence, is with you. You're going to go to Pharaoh's house and nothing is going to happen to you. But do me that favor. Tell me you're my sister because you'll be protected. Pharaoh won't be able to touch you. But meanwhile, I won't get killed. But the Zohar asks, why did Sarah have to go through such terrible, plight? Even though she was not going to get touched. But could you imagine a righteous woman like Sarah Imenu going into a house of a wicked person, Pharaoh? It's not a good feeling. Just imagine anybody, God forbid, sisters, mom, going into some palace, even if the king is not going to touch him, but it's not a good feeling. So the Zohar says that had to happen because Abraham had to become rich. And the only way Abraham becomes rich is only through his wife. So he went to Pharaoh's palace. And when Pharaoh got the plagues, he got afraid of Abraham, and he actually gave Abraham, the Torah says, a lot of money, gold, silver, animals, and he became rich. And here the Zohar says, really, the parnasa, the livelihood that a man makes, depends on the righteousness of his wife. So I'll give you a trick. Go out with your wife, with your future wife, your fiancés, and when he says you don't have any money, just tell it doesn't matter. The Zohar says I become rich through my wife. You're such a righteous girl. Marry me. For your merit, I become righteous. I become rich. Now, I don't know if that's going to work, but you could try it. I'm just kidding. Yeah, hopefully God gives you so much money that you don't have to worry about, convincing the girl. But as we all know from Rabbi Facebook, it's not the size of the ring, it's the size of the heart. That's for the girls. And for the boys, it's not the size of the skirt, it's the size of the heart. You don't have to worry how skinny she is. If her skirt is 0, 2, 1, or 3, that really doesn't matter that much. The main thing is that she's a real good girl. So that was the second reason why Abraham actually allowed her to go through that, because he saw that nothing is going to happen to Sarah. Is that clear, people? Clear? Any questions? We're going to go to the second part. Any questions?
Yeah, what do you mean by the skirt? 0, 1, 2, 3.
Skinny. How skinny? I'm married, so I know what size of skirt, my wife wears.
So you think
Skinny ladies wear 0, 2. The ones that are more heavy, 6, 8, 10,
So you don't think girls should lose weight?
No, of course I do. I'm not saying this. Nobody should be fat. Even men should lose weight. What I'm saying is that's not what makes it or breaks it. I'm not telling you marry a girl that's 300 pounds. But I'm saying somebody's not 140, he's only 155, 15 pounds overweight. It's not the end of the world.
So it's like
She could not even be overweight. She's not 150, 40.
you're like invest. Hopefully they lose weight.
Yeah, go to gym with them. Don't say how fat are you. Go to the gym. Say I want to go to the gym because I want to be healthy. Would you come with me? You have to know how to be nice. And you know what? Another thing, many girls, once they get married and they have children, it's not even their fault. The whole metabolism changes. And they're, a little bit more overweight. So they don't always stay the same. Believe me, after you get married, you want to have a healthy wife and a healthy mom. That's the main thing that counts. The rest is garbage. Anyways, guys, let's go to the next part. Actually, we're going to talk about circumcision. Because this week's Parshat talks about Abraham. God commands him to circumcise himself. But I want to tell you a couple of things, actually, that it teaches us very great things. You see, Abraham our father, kept all the commandments before he was given. Not that he had the Torah. He didn't have the Torah to study it. But God actually taught him the Torah verbally. We find, for example, Rashi says, when the guests come to Abraham, it says Abraham made matzah for them. It says ugot matzah. Why would he make matzah for them? Isn't bread more delicious? Why matzah? So Rashi says it was Passover time, and he knew in the future his descendants will go out of Egypt. They're going to have the commandment of matzah. So he kept it. He kept the whole Torah before he was given. The only mitzvah that Avram didn't keep before he was given, he waited for God to command him to do, was the mitzvah of circumcision. He waited till he was 99, and God told him, I want you to circumcise yourself. Why didn't he do it before? He ate matzah before. He kept Shabbat before. So circumcise yourself before too. Was he afraid to cut himself until God commanded him? So we're going to discuss what's the reason that Abraham kept all the commandments before he was commanded, but circumcision he didn't do until he was commanded. So here we're going to learn actually, guys, what's the difference of our commandments and the commandments that the fathers kept. Before the Torah was given, they kept the mitzvot voluntarily. They were not commanded. But we keep the commandments now because God commanded us. What's the difference? If you keep a commandment voluntarily without God's command, or if you keep a mitzvah because God commanded you. And the Gemara says actually, someone who's commanded and keeps the mitzvah is greater than someone who's not commanded and keeps it. Seems to be the opposite. If I don't have to and I keep it, isn't that greater than if I have to do it? So, but then let me tell you, Tosfot explains, because if you have to keep it, you're always worried, if I don't, I'm going to get punished. So your pain is more. Somebody that doesn't have to keep it, so if I don't keep it, big deal, I don't have to keep it. So you don't have that pain. More pain, more gain. That's what the reward is bigger. But now we're going to learn a much deeper explanation. You see, people, what happens is, when we do a mitzvah today, you actually make godliness permeate through the physical world. When you make from a skin of a cow a Sefer Torah, that Sefer Torah is holy. When you make tefillin is made from parchment, from ink. It's not an object, it's actually a holy thing. That's why if God forbid a Sefer Torah falls on the ground, if a tefillin without the box falls on the ground, we have to fast because something holy fell down. But that wasn't always like that. Before the Torah was given, what Abraham kept, what Isaac kept, they could not bring godliness to permeate the physical world. Can you guys please take your intellect and put it inside this cup? Of course not. You can't put something spiritual inside a physical thing. So how could godliness permeate the physical world? It was impossible. So as much as, Abraham kept the commandments, they were only able to bring more godliness in the spiritual worlds, but the physical world stayed the same. They couldn't change this physical world into something holy because they didn't have the commandment of God. There were limitations. You guys say Hallel once in a while. It says Hashamayim Shamayim LaHashem. The spiritual worlds belong to God. Va'aretz natan livnei adam. Earth belongs to man. You couldn't mix them both. But then God gave the Torah. So because God has no limitations of spiritual world and the physical world, He said, I'm going to give you the commandments. And when you keep the mitzvot, you actually make God permeate into the physical world. When your hand puts on tefillin, it's not the same hand that never put on tefillin. It's not the same thing. Is that clear, people? So we find in the Zohar, how did Yaakov put on tefillin? It says a very strange thing. You guys know when he was making the sheeps? You know the story with the sheeps? His father-in-law was a cruel person. So he gave him all white sheeps. All the white and all the speckled ones and black or whatever, red ones, whatever the color they had, brown ones. He said, I'm going to give you all the white sheep. And the only way from now on, if any speckled sheep are born, are yours. Now both parents are white. How could you have a brown sheep? So Yaakov did a very, very interesting stuff. He took sticks that were colorful and he peeled them. So there was white spots in the middle. And he put it into the water where they're coming to drink. So then, when they saw those sticks, he put the female sheep in the front. They were afraid and they went back, and that excited the male sheep, and they had relations. But because in their mind, the female had that, piece of wood that was white and colorful, the kids came out to be like speckled and a different color. Whatever is in the mind has an effect. The Gemara actually says there was a Roman woman that had a black child. So the nobleman wanted to kill her. So he had relations with a black person. So he says, no, I promise I didn't. So they went to one of the rabbis. They had pictures of, African Americans in their bedroom. So she had that picture in her mind before they were together. So that had an effect on the child that was black. So what goes in your mind has an effect on the child. But anyways, why did I say that? The Zohar says those sticks that he put into the water was the way Yaakov put on tefillin. Whatever that means, I have no idea. But those sticks become holy after he finished his job. No, they didn't. They were regular sticks. He was able to throw them out. Because beforehand, God didn't command them to do a mitzvah. So whatever a person did, because he was limited, he couldn't bring godliness down to the earth. But once God commanded us to keep the mitzvot, he gave us his infinite power. We don't have it on our own. God gave it to us. That your action makes a difference in the world. When you do a mitzvah, you actually bring godliness in the world. I'm not kidding. Your hand is not the same hand after puts on tefillin. Your head is not the same head. When you go and give charity to a poor man, because these fingers did a mitzvah, they become holier. They're not the same. Is that clear? So our mitzvot are a lot higher than the mitzvot of our fathers. But at the same time, is so far clear, people? But at the same time, it says, Masa avot simon lebanim. Whatever our fathers did is a sign for us. For example, the simple explanation is when, Abraham went to Egypt and he came out rich. So the Jews went to Egypt, they came out rich too. Sarah went to Pharaoh's house, but she wasn't violated. All our mothers in Egypt, they were not violated either. Whatever happened to the fathers happened to us. But Chassidus says more than that. In Chassidic philosophy, it says, whatever the fathers did gives us the power to do what we do now. So for our commandments to penetrate the physical world, to permeate the physical world, Avram had to have at least one commandment that actually has an effect on the physical world. And that was the mitzvah of Milah, Brit Milah. Guys, why Brit Milah is such a holy mitzvah? It's actually a sign in your physical body. It's even more than tefillin. When you put on tefillin, tefillin doesn't become your hand. It just, sanctifies your hand. But you don't have the tefillin within your hands. Concept of Brit Milah is that you have a sign in your physical flesh that stays with you forever. That part of the body becomes holy. Isn't that amazing? God is saying the most physical, the most animalistic part of a human being, which is that part, could actually be connected to God. That's through the mitzvah of Milah. So Abraham had to wait to have one commandment at least, that it's a mitzvah that permeates the physical world, the physical body, and that was the mitzvah of Milah. So he waited for God to command him to give it to him. From that, we have the power that all the mitzvah that we do by the commandment of God could actually penetrate through the physical world. I want to tell you guys, mitzvah of Milah is different than anything else. Milah has two parts. Is the actual cutting and the fact that you stay circumcised. That's a mitzvah too. That's one mitzvah that you carry with yourself 24 hours. You see, when you put on tefillin, you take it off. You don't have tefillin with you anymore. But Milah is two mitzvot. One is the actual cutting when you're born at the age of 8 days old, and to stay circumcised, that it's a mitzvah too. We learn it from a big mitzvah. Guys, in the olden days, in Greece, the Greek people, they really believed in the beauty of the body. They brought the Olympics and all these things. The Greeks had a philosophy that if somebody became too old, so his body became ugly. They used to take the old parents, throw them into the forest for the animals to eat them, because they believe in the beauty of body. So when you're young, your body is beautiful, there's something to have. When you become 90 years old, they used to throw them, really in the forest to be eaten by the animals. Anyway, so Greeks, they did not circumcise themselves at that time. So many Jews became Hellenized. So when they used to go to the public baths, in those days there was no private bathhouse. There was only public bathhouses. So the Jews got embarrassed because they were with the Greeks. They were circumcised. The Greeks were not. So a lot of them, they pulled the skin and they covered their circumcision. So the Rambam writes, and anybody that does that is actually desecrating the covenant of Abraham, that is circumcised. If the mitzvah is only the cutting, but there's no mitzvah to stay circumcised, why is he doing the sin? So there's a mitzvah to stay circumcised. There's another funny story in the Gemara. The Gemara says King David one time went to a bathhouse, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm empty from mitzvah. I have no mitzvah on me. No kippah, no tzitzit, no tefillin, nothing." Then he says, "Oh, you know what? I'm circumcised, so I have a mitzvah." Why did the circumcision make him feel good? If the mitzvah was only the cutting that he did when he was 8 days old, that morning he put on tefillin too. So why did the putting of tefillin not make him feel good? What made him feel good? The circumcision? Because the mitzvah of circumcision continues. As long as you stay circumcised, you're fulfilling a mitzvah every single second. Or if he pulls over the skin. I said in times of Greeks, Jews were embarrassed to show they're circumcised. They would take the skin and pull it over and cover the place that was circumcised. They could stretch the skin. Don't ask me how, they did it. Thank God we don't have that problem these days. We're not intimidated by others that are, actually, if they are not circumcised, they're abnormal these days. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to be, and it's actually been proven that it's a lot healthier to be circumcised.
Why?
What's the reason? Okay, so I wanted to explain to you, in Africa actually, in 1984, a lot of people were dying from AIDS, even today. So they found that in Africa, they didn't use protection. It wasn't like America, they were not educated. So this AIDS was going all around. They found out boys that were circumcised, they had 60% less chance of getting the virus, HIV. So they didn't know why. They researched, because what happens is when you have the extra skin and they have relations with women that have the AIDS virus or something, so that virus goes under the skin because it covers it and it stays there for a long time and actually gets within you. But once you're circumcised, there is no skin covering it, it doesn't stay that long. So they said on the radio, it was in NPR. I remember in 1984, 85. Actually, no, it was in the 90s that I heard it. But 84 was a big, AIDS was figured out, maybe a little bit before. So they were saying, you're going to tell the Africans, do not circumcise because God said so. They're not going to listen. They're going to tell them circumcise because it's healthier. Even doctors have proven it's a healthy thing to do. So we don't have that challenge, thank God. But I just want to say, you guys, every single one of you is a very holy person. The lowest part of the body, the most animalistic part of the body, which is the place that we circumcise, has a connection to God. This actually gives us the strength. We shouldn't, God forbid, do sin with that part of our body. Because you have the holiest sign there. You don't have a mitzvah in your hand to cut it. God put it in the most animalistic place. And it's called the Holy Covenant. So you guys have that merit, and I say, all you guys are heroes. I always say that joke. When I was in yeshiva, I was only around boys. There was nothing to excite me. The only woman in yeshiva was, as I said all the time, a 60-year-old secretary that no one even bothered looking at. And by the time our brain started working, thinking about girls, so I was 22, whatever, stupid, anything. I was good stupidity. We didn't know too much about others. Once our mind started wandering, so then we had these matchmakers. Oh, you look handsome, go get married. So we had no chance of, thank God, doing too many sins or any sins. But you guys are the heroes. You're in the public schools, you're in the colleges, and you have to know that God really cherishes you. And He gave one of the holiest mitzvot in the lowest part of the body, because He trusts you that you're going to keep it holy. Clear, people? That's why Abraham anyways waited till he got a commandment from God, because he had to have at least one mitzvah that penetrates the physical body. We're going to go to the last part, please. If you have any questions, please ask. Sorry, this was like the Torah 21 and above. It's all about circumcision, But you guys are not 21. I guess you consider to be adults after 13, according to the Torah.
According to you, we're 21. It's okay.
What?
According to you, we're 21.
According to the Torah, you're 13. You're an adult. You're above 13. In the Torah, there's no adolescence. In America, you have adolescence. He's 13. He's not a child, but he's not an adult. So whatever wrong thing he does, he's not responsible. The Torah says, no, after 13, you're responsible. There's no adolescence. Anyways, guys, sorry. I hope it was a good Torah, even though it was a little bit, adult type. But it's good to know about it. I'm going to go. What? It's definitely important to know. And you know what, guys? You'll have a bigger effect on your friends than me. If I'm going to tell them, as I told you, say, Rabbi, for you it was easy. Because you're in yeshiva all your life. You don't have the challenges that we have. You're right. I never had your challenges. But you guys, you keep strong. You could be a role model for the rest of your friends. At least you can inspire them to hang around Jewish people, get married to a Jewish person. not to fall into impurity. For both of them, for Jews and non-Jews, it's not good to marry each other. Just like it hurts a Jew, hurts a non-Jew also.
Isn't it also not okay to go to a non-Jewish wedding or a Jew marrying another non-Jew?
You're not allowed to go
Not allowed to.
because then you're giving it a stamp. That's okay.
So basically it's like you're okay with doing it yourself.
Or you're okaying it for him. You can't do that. I have this question many times. Unfortunately, these days, you have many people that have cousins, far cousins, a friend that are marrying non-Jewish, and they say we're very close. He invited us. Should we go or not? Can't go.
No.
It's not a wedding. It's companionship.
It's like if they want to get divorced, they don't have to get divorced. They just leave. They're not married.
Well, I mean, they have to get civil divorce, so because it's not a marriage. It's companionship. They're roommates. They're not. It's not a unifying of two souls. Marriage means unifying of two souls. That only happens if they're soulmates from the same religion. If they're two different religions, they're just companionship. It's not marriage. Go ahead. So then when she converts, you have to make another marriage. Or you convert her before, and then you get married. But again, conversion only helps for non-Kohens. If the boy is a Kohen, cannot marry a convert. Okay? But a girl, even if she's a daughter of a Kohen, could marry a convert. Because she would lose the Kohen anyways, if she marry a Levi or Israel, A girl doesn't keep the Kohen side unless she marries the Kohen. Anyways, guys, going to the next part. This is going to be the last part that we're going to learn Be'ezrat Hashem for tonight. And this actually will apply to you guys too. It's very, very relevant. Guys, Abraham Avinu, his nephew Lot went and lived in the city of Sodom. People of Sodom were very, very evil. They're very, very evil. So, I'm sorry. So what happens is there was these kings, 4 kings, fight against 5 kings. And one of the kings was kings of Sodom. So they capture the city of Sodom and they take captives. Who they take as a captive? They take Lot, nephew of Abraham. Sorry guys, just give me a second. Oh, Gilad. Yeah. Pasha, give me a second, hold on. Guys, where do you want to eat? Because I have to know with somebody. You want to go to Schnitzel? Schnitzel is okay? Okay. I'm going to be in Schnitzel at 9 o'clock. Thank you. No problem. Anyways, so what happens is they actually take his nephew Lot as a captive. And the reason was because one of the 4 kings was Nimrod. Nimrod is the one that threw Avram into the fire. He couldn't kill Avram. Avram was teaching about God to everybody, so he had an excuse. Now Avram is going to come into the war to save his nephew. I'm going to kill Avram. Exact same, plan that, Hamas has. They're hoping for the Israelis, our Jewish brothers, to go into Gaza Strip and actually make a big trap for them and get rid of them. I just hope God gives them a lot of success. Hopefully what they bombarded from the sky, from the airplanes, just destroys all the tunnels and they'll have an easy time making the grand invasion. So, but again, Nimrod had the same plan. He takes a captive, which is nephew of Abraham, and Abraham loved his nephew. Abraham is going to go into the war against these 4 kings, and come on, his army can't win against 4 kings, but God makes a miracle and Abraham wins. So Abraham wins and he killed many people. But Abraham had that Jewish guilt. He says, maybe I killed innocent people. A lot of civilians died. Maybe I'm going to get punished for killing civilians. When you go to a war, you can't really control. So God tells Abraham, it says, Al tira Abraham. Abraham, don't worry about it. Anybody that you killed, they were wicked. You're not going to get punished for killing civilians. You're going to have a lot of reward also. Now, why is he talking about reward? Okay, he's not going to get punished because he didn't kill any innocent people. But why is he getting a lot of reward? So Rashi says that Abraham was worried, maybe because God made miracles for me, I used up all my reward. It says never do something that puts your life in danger, that God has to make a miracle for you. Because if a miracle has to happen for you, you're going to lose many merits. Don't jump in the freeway and say God is going to save you. Because he might not save you, and if he saves you, you lose a lot of reward. A lot of merits you're going to lose.
How many merits do you have?
Well, depends what you do. Depends how many mitzvot you do. Especially if you do kindness to other people, your merits are a lot.
If reward system.
Exactly. The more you do, the more you deserve. Right? So, anyways, what happens is, so God tells Abraham, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a lot of reward because none of your merits were used that you won the war. So here a very good question comes. Was Abraham really worried about reward? That God tells him, you have a lot of reward? Maimonides writes down that Abraham served God only because he loved God. I'm going to make an example to make it understandable. All you guys love your parents. If your parents want something, you do it for them. Does it ever enter your mind, I'm going to help my mom and dad, so when they die, I'm going to inherit them? Of course, you never think like that. Does any parent raise their children, I'm going to raise my boy, so when I get old, he's not going to throw me into an old age home, he's going to take care of me? Parents don't think on these conditions because they love their kids, they raise them. They don't think that the kid's going to take care of them when they grow up. Or a kid doesn't take care of his mother or father because when they die, I'm going to inherit them. You do it because you love them. So the Maimonides says, Rambam says, Abram was the same way too. The Torah calls Abram, Abram who loved me, because he served God out of love, not for reward. So why is he worried about reward right now? That God tells him, don't worry, you're going to get a lot of reward. Even though a miracle happened and you killed the 4 kings, don't worry, you have a lot of reward. He was never worried about reward. But it looks like this time he was. What happened? So we're going to go through the answer, people, and that applies to every single one of you. Avram, in his personal life, he didn't care if he's going to be poor or rich. Made no difference to him. He only wanted to be rich. He wanted to have the reward and be rich, not for his own sake. Let me ask you guys, if you're going to see a religious person, right, that his life is miserable, kids are sick, he's sick, he makes no money, you get motivated to become religious?
No.
No. What if you see a religious guy, a bunch of religious people? They're successful, they make money, they drive, at least Mercedes, the kids are healthy, they're happy, and he's going to tell you, you know what, I'm religious, that's why I get these blessings. Wouldn't you be motivated to become religious? Of course you would. If you see that religious people have good lives, you say, why not? It works. I'll be very honest with you. There's actually a story with a guy. It was such a weird story. He said, 2 years before I became believer in God, I was observant. He didn't believe in God, but he was observant. So it says I was 2 years observant before I believed in God. So that's him. It was a doctor. What are you talking about? Why would you keep the Torah if you're not a believer? He says, because when I got married, I really wanted to have a good life. It's what do you call it? What is it called? Prosperous life. And then I saw these religious people, for some reason, they're happy with their wives, with their husbands, with their kids. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. I don't believe in God, but I'm going to try it. See if being religious helps. So after 2 years tryout, I saw that it helped. So then I really believed in God. It was a true story with a doctor. So you see, when you see that religious people, they're honest people, they're good people, and have a good life, you get motivated to be religious. So Abraham told God, I don't care if I'm poor or rich, but if I'm going to be poor, how could I bring people closer to God? I need you to give me the money so I could bring people closer to God. So his reward was not for himself, for his own, comfort. He wanted the reward to be able to bring him closer to God. This is what you guys will be. God willing, you all become successful business people or doctors or whatever you become. Successful, and you're the people that in the morning you put on tefillin before you go to work. You're the people that, on Shabbat have no work. God will take care of everything. It's family time, God's time. You don't sacrifice your family because you want to make another dollar on Shabbat. You're going to take your kid, sing lecha with him Friday night in the shul. And they say, hey, this guy is successful and he's religious. Why is he so successful? Because he keeps God's commandments and God is behind him. This was Abraham. He wanted the money to be able to bring people closer to God. Because if he had miserable life, people will go away from him. What did religion help you? With all your greatness, I say, oh, God is great, God is this. Where is it? Why are you miserable? That's why I wanted to have the money and the reward. So the reward that he wanted was in order to be able to serve God. And God willing, all you guys will have that. Amen.